Hello, family. Enjoy this relaxing moment with Surly Tales. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. It means the world to us. Also, share this video with your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The sprawling estate in Lagos glittered under the evening lights, a testament to success, ambition, and love, at least on the surface. The mansion, located on one of the city's most exclusive hillsides, offered a panoramic view of the city. Lagos stretched beneath her like a sea of lights, its relentless hum a constant reminder of the empire she had built. Amara stood on the balcony of her glass-walled bedroom, the cool breeze ruffling her dark, natural curls as she gazed out over the city. The view had once inspired pride, a reflection of her success, a success born of hard work and sacrifices. But tonight, it felt as empty as the hollow echo of her husband's words that still lingered in the air. Amara, Kwame had said, his voice smooth but edged with an unsettling finality. It's simple. If you truly love me, you'll trust me enough to hand over the company. You need rest, focus on us for a change. The word felt like acid on her tongue. This was the man who had once whispered promises of partnership, who had vowed to stand beside her as she built Hstorytine Ventures from nothing. Now, he stood before her, not as a partner, but as a predator, ready to devour everything she had worked for. The breeze picked up, and Amara hugged her arms tighter around her chest as if to shield herself from the chilling truth. Kwame's ultimatum had come like a bolt of lightning in the midst of a peaceful evening. No warning. No signs. Just a cold demand: sign over control of Hstorytine Ventures or face the end of their marriage. And though it was delivered with a smile, the threat was real. Her mind raced back to the beginning, back to her roots in Enugu, where she had grown up in a small village surrounded by a tight-knit community of resilient women who worked the land and nurtured their children with an unspoken strength. It was there, amid the towering palm trees and the red earth, that Amara had learned that nothing in life came easy. Her mother, Nneka, had been her greatest inspiration, a woman who had fought every day for the survival of their family. Nneka had taught Amara early on that the world would try to break her, to box her into the limitations of gender and poverty, but the key to survival was not to yield. Amara, the world will try to break you, but you must rise stronger every time. Those words had fueled her through every challenge she had faced, whether it was earning a scholarship to one of Nigeria's top universities, securing a grant to launch her first renewable energy project, or expanding Hstorytine Ventures across Africa. She had faced corruption in the form of government officials, she had battled gender bias in boardrooms, and she had fought an endless battle for respect. Yet through it all, she had never faltered. Until now. Her father had warned her as well. Beware of men who come into your life when the light of your success is brightest, he had said, his voice heavy with the weight of his own life's disappointments. Some will love you, others will covet what you have. Amara had laughed off her father's warnings. After all, she had never believed in superstition or baseless fears. When she had met Kwame, everything had seemed different. He had been charming, warm, and undeniably supportive. He had a way with words, a way of making her believe in him and in their future. He had understood her dreams and had stood by her during those early years of Hstorytine Ventures when her company was just a name on paper and a handful of struggling employees. But slowly things had changed. She had tried to convince herself it was just the pressures of their rapidly growing empire, but Kwame's behavior had grown more erratic. The subtle digs, the shifting dynamics, the unspoken resentment simmering behind his eyes, it had all been there, but Amara had been too focused on her work to confront it. Now, standing in the quiet of the evening, she realized that Kwame had been playing a dangerous game for some time. He was no longer the man who had promised to be her partner in life. He was an opportunist, willing to sacrifice everything, including their marriage, to further his own ambitions. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind her. She turned to find Kwame standing in the doorway, his tall figure silhouetted against the soft light of the hallway. His presence filled the room with a sense of dominance, his dark eyes locking with hers. "Amara," he said again, softer this time as he approached her, You know what's at stake. This company is becoming too much for you. You're neglecting everything, your health, our relationship. Don't let your pride be the reason we fall apart. She swallowed hard, the words hitting her like a physical blow. Her heart ached, not from love, but from betrayal. She had sacrificed so much for this marriage, so much for him, and now he was asking her to abandon the one thing she had built from the ground up. Her legacy. I'm not signing anything, Kwame, she said, her voice steady but laced with a quiet anger. This is my life's work. I won't just hand it over to you. His face hardened, and the charming smile he often wore faded into something more dangerous, cold and calculated. If you don't, Amara, I'm afraid our marriage will come to an end. I'll have no choice but to walk away. Her breath caught in her throat, but she refused to let him see the vulnerability that threatened to break through. She had come too far to let him destroy everything. But even as she spoke the words, she felt the weight of her own heart breaking, a deep fissure forming between them. You're making a mistake, Kwame, she said quietly, her voice trembling ever so slightly. You're asking me to choose between my company and my marriage. And you don't get to make that choice for me. For a moment, the room was silent except for the faint rustling of the wind outside. Kwame's eyes softened for a fraction of a second, but only a fraction. The mask of indifference he wore was unyielding. He stepped closer to her, his voice low. Then you've already made your choice? Amara felt the ground beneath her shift, and she realized that this wasn't just a fight for the company anymore. This was a fight for her very soul. She was at a crossroads, with everything she had worked for hanging in the balance. Kwame turned and walked away without another word, leaving her standing in the shadows of the balcony, her mind spinning. Her heart, however, knew one thing for certain: this was far from over. As the last light of the day faded into the night, Amara whispered to herself, "This isn't over." The next morning, Amara sat in the garden, her sanctuary from the chaos of the world. The lush greenery surrounded her, and the scent of blooming hibiscus filled the air. It was a sharp contrast to the turmoil within her. The massive baobab tree, its gnarled branches stretching skyward, stood as a silent witness to her struggles. She had always loved this tree, its resilience mirrored her own. Amara sipped her tea, her mind replaying Kwame's ultimatum. His words lingered like a bad taste in her mouth. He had framed his demand as a plea for love, but it was control he sought, not affection. She had built Edenic Ventures from scratch, enduring sleepless nights, hostile boardrooms, and countless rejections. How could Kwame expect her to surrender it all? Her phone buzzed on the table, breaking her thoughts. It was Zuri, her childhood best friend and confidant. If there was anyone who could help her navigate this storm, it was Zuri. She picked up the call. "Amara, are you okay?" Zuri's voice was warm but tinged with concern. "You sounded off when you texted last night." Amara hesitated for a moment before responding. "Can you come over? I need to talk." "Of course," Zuri replied without hesitation. "I'll be there in an hour." By the time Zuri arrived, Amara had retreated to the shade of the baobab tree. Dressed in a simple Ankara gown, Zuri approached with her characteristic confidence. She was the kind of friend who exuded calm in any storm, her presence a balm to Amara's frayed nerves. "You look like you've been wrestling demons," Zuri said as she sat down beside Amara. Amara let out a bitter laugh. "More like a devil." Zuri raised an eyebrow. "Kwame." Amara nodded, her gaze fixed on the teacup in her hands. She recounted the events of the previous night, her voice steady but laden with emotion. When she finished, Zuri leaned back against the tree trunk, her expression unreadable. "I told you about that man," Zuri said, her tone soft but firm. "From the moment I met him, I knew there was something off." Amara sighed. "I know you've never liked him, Zuri, but I thought he loved me. I thought we were building something together." Zuri reached over and took Amara's hand. "Love shouldn't come with ultimatums, Amara. This isn't about love, it's about control. Kwame sees your success, and instead of celebrating it, he wants to own it." Amara looked away, her throat tightening. "What do I do? He's threatening to leave if I don't sign over the company. And the worst part is, I don't even know if I care about saving the marriage anymore." Zuri leaned forward, her eyes blazing with determination. You fight back. You protect what's yours. Kwame wants to play games? Then let's show him that you're not someone to mess with. The rest of the day was spent strategizing. Zuri helped Amara map out her options, from reviewing her legal rights to planning how to counter any moves Kwame might make. They agreed that the first step was to consult Chinedu, Amara's trusted legal advisor. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the garden, Amara felt a flicker of hope. She wasn't alone in this fight. But just as she was beginning to feel steady, a call from her assistant jolted her back into reality. "Ma'am," the assistant said, her voice laced with urgency, "I thought you should know. There's been some unusual activity with the company's accounts." Amara froze. "What kind of activity?" "It seems like someone's been transferring funds to offshore accounts," the assistant explained. "I flagged it, but I thought you should be aware." Amara's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about Kwame wanting control, it was about him already taking it. The next morning, Amara met with Chinedu in his Lagos office. The space was sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bustling city. Chinedu, a sharp-dressed man in his early 40s, greeted her warmly but wasted no time getting to business. "Kwame's actions are a classic power move," he said after Amara explained the situation. "He's testing your boundaries, seeing how far he can push you before you push back." Amara frowned. "What can I do to protect the company?" "For starters, we'll need to audit every transaction from the past 6 months, Chinedu said. "If he's already moving funds, we need to track where they're going and freeze them if possible. But more importantly, we need to ensure he can't make any further decisions without your approval." Amara nodded, her resolve hardening. "Do whatever it takes. I'm not letting him destroy what I've built." That evening, Amara sat under the baobab tree once again, her thoughts racing. The betrayal cut deeper than she had imagined. Kwame wasn't just trying to take her company, he was trying to undermine her very identity. As the stars emerged in the night sky, Amara made a silent vow. She would fight back, not just for herself but for every woman who had ever been told she was too ambitious, too strong, or too much. This wasn't just a battle for Edenic Ventures. This was a battle for her dignity, her legacy, and her future. And she wasn't going to lose. The sun rose over Lagos, casting a golden hue across the sprawling city. Amara stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of her office at Edenic Ventures, her reflection blending with the cityscape below. She had always found solace in this view, a reminder of how far she'd come. But today, her mind was consumed with strategy. Kwame's betrayal wasn't just a personal attack, it was a declaration of war. And she was ready to fight. Amara's assistant, Funmi, knocked softly on the door before stepping inside. Her sharp demeanor and unwavering loyalty made her one of Amara's most trusted staff members. "Ma'am," Funmi said, placing a folder on the desk, "these are the initial reports from the audit Chinedu requested. There are several flagged transactions. It looks like Kwame has been moving funds into accounts tied to shell companies." Amara clenched her jaw as she flipped through the pages. The numbers didn't lie. Kwame wasn't just testing the waters, he was already neck-deep in his scheme. "Thank you, Funmi," Amara said, her voice steady despite the storm brewing within. "Tell Chinedu to prioritize freezing these accounts. I'll need a detailed breakdown of every transaction by the end of the day." Funmi nodded and left, leaving Amara alone with her thoughts. She closed the folder and leaned back in her chair. This was more than just financial sabotage. Kwame was dismantling the empire she had spent her entire life building. Rebuilding the circle of trust. Later that day, Amara met with Zuri and Chinedu at her home. The three of them gathered in the study, a warm and inviting space filled with bookshelves and the faint scent of leather. "I've looked into the flagged accounts," Chinedu began, spreading out documents on the table. "Kwame has been siphoning funds for months. The shell companies he's using are linked to a group of foreign investors based in South Africa. It's clear he's planning to sell off assets, possibly even the entire company." Zuri leaned forward, her brow furrowed. "This isn't just betrayal, it's premeditated theft." Amara nodded, her expression grim. "We need to stop him before he goes any further." But I also need to be strategic. If this becomes public, it could damage the company's reputation. Chinedu tapped his pen against the table, deep in thought. We'll handle this quietly for now. But you need to build a stronger defense. Reach out to your allies, people you trust within the company and your network. If Kwame tries to escalate, you'll need them on your side. Amara's mind raced. Over the years, she had cultivated relationships with powerful figures across Africa, from business leaders to government officials. It was time to call in some favors. Rekindling old alliances. The following week, Amara traveled to Abuja to meet with Mr. Okonkwo, a seasoned businessman who had mentored her in the early days of Ednic Ventures. They met at an upscale restaurant, its elegant interior a stark contrast to the tension Amara carried. Amara, Okonkwo said warmly, his deep voice resonating as he shook her hand. It's been too long. To what do I owe the pleasure? Amara smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. I need your advice, and your support. As they sat down, she explained the situation, sparing no detail. Okonkwo listened intently, his expression growing darker with every word. Kwame has overplayed his hand, Okonkwo said finally. But you're right to tread carefully. This isn't just about the money, it's about control. If you expose him too soon, he could twist the narrative against you. Men like him know how to manipulate public opinion. Amara nodded, her chest tightening. So what do I do? You fight fire with fire, Okonkwo said. Strengthen your alliances. Build a coalition within the company, people who will back you no matter what. And most importantly, gather evidence. When the time comes, you'll need to present an airtight case. Planting the seeds of rebellion. Back at Ednic Ventures, Amara began reaching out to key members of her executive team. She chose carefully, focusing on those who had proven their loyalty over the years. Among them was Ademola, her chief operating officer, and Ngozi, the head of public relations. In a private meeting, Amara laid out the situation. She didn't sugarcoat the gravity of the threat, but she also made it clear that she had a plan. We've built something extraordinary here, Amara said, her voice steady and confident. But Kwame is trying to tear it down for his own gain. I need your support to stop him, and to protect everything we've worked for. Ademola leaned forward, his expression serious. You've always had my loyalty, Amara. Whatever you need, I'm with you. Ngozi nodded in agreement. We won't let him destroy this company. Count me in. With her core team in place, Amara felt a renewed sense of determination. Kwame may have underestimated her, but he was about to learn just how far she was willing to go to defend her legacy. The turning point. As Amara's network grew stronger, Kwame's moves became increasingly desperate. He began showing up unannounced at the office, charming the staff and trying to assert his influence. But Amara had anticipated this. With Zuri's help, she discreetly recorded every conversation and gathered more evidence of his underhanded tactics. One evening, Kwame confronted Amara in her office. His charm was gone, replaced by a simmering anger. You're making this harder than it needs to be, he said, his voice low and threatening. Why are you fighting me? Amara met his gaze, her expression unyielding. Because I see you for what you really are, Kwame. And I won't let you win. He smirked, though there was no humor in it. We'll see about that. As he stormed out, Amara felt a surge of resolve. This wasn't just about Ednic Ventures anymore. This was about standing up to the man who had tried to break her spirit, and proving that she was unbreakable. A new dawn. That night, under the baobab tree, Amara sat with Zuri and Chinedu, finalizing the next steps of their plan. The evidence was mounting, and the alliances were in place. The time to strike was near. As the moonlight bathed the garden in silver, Amara looked up at the ancient tree, its branches stretching toward the sky. This isn't just about me, she said softly. It's about every woman who's ever been told she's too strong, too ambitious. Kwame thinks he can silence me. But he's wrong. Zuri placed a hand on her shoulder. You're not alone in this, Amara. We're with you every step of the way. And with that, Amara felt a spark of hope. She wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for a legacy that would inspire generations. And she was ready to rise from the ashes. The boardroom of Edenic Ventures was a stark contrast to the storm brewing within Amara. The room was pristine, with polished mahogany tables and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of Lagos. But for Amara, this wasn't just a room, it was the battleground where her fate would be decided. Today was the day she would confront Kwame and expose his betrayal to the board. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, gathering evidence, rallying her allies, and ensuring her plan was foolproof. The stakes couldn't have been higher. If she failed, she stood to lose everything she had built. The calm before the storm. Amara arrived early, her sharp, tailored suit a symbol of her resolve. She had chosen navy blue, a color that exuded authority and calm. Zuri accompanied her, a silent pillar of strength. "Are you ready?" Zuri asked as they entered the building. Amara nodded. "More than ready. This ends today." The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. Amara's heart pounded, but she reminded herself of everything she had endured to get here. Kwame's manipulations, the betrayal of trust, and the sleepless nights, it all led to this moment. When the elevator doors opened, the tension in the air was palpable. The board members were already seated, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and unease. Kwame sat at the head of the table, his confident smirk a stark contrast to the storm brewing within Amara. "Ah, Amara," Kwame said, rising to greet her. "We've been waiting for you." She met his gaze with an icy calm. "I'm sure you have." The unveiling. The meeting began with routine updates, but Amara's mind was laser-focused on what was to come. When it was her turn to speak, she rose with purpose, a folder in her hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady and commanding. "Today, I want to address an issue that goes beyond business. It concerns the very integrity of Edenic Ventures." The room fell silent. All eyes were on her, including Kwame's, though his smirk had faltered slightly. "For months," Amara continued, "there have been unauthorized transactions involving company funds. These funds were siphoned into shell accounts linked to foreign entities. After a thorough investigation, we have traced these actions back to one individual." She opened the folder and placed documents on the table. "The evidence is undeniable. And the person responsible is Kwame." Gasps echoed through the room. Kwame's smirk vanished, replaced by a look of stunned disbelief. "This is outrageous," he exclaimed, rising to his feet. "You're accusing me without proof?" Amara remained calm. "Oh, I have proof." She gestured to Chinedu, who entered the room carrying a laptop. With a few keystrokes, Chinedu projected a series of documents and emails onto the screen. The evidence was damning: bank statements, email correspondences, and contracts tying Kwame to the illegal transactions. Each piece fit together seamlessly, painting a picture of his betrayal. "This is a setup," Kwame shouted, his voice desperate now. "She's trying to ruin me because I refuse to support her reckless decisions." Amara stepped closer to him, her gaze unwavering. "The only reckless decision here was trusting you. You tried to steal from me, from this company, and from everyone who believed in us. But you underestimated me, Kwame. You thought I wouldn't fight back." Kwame's downfall. The board members turned on Kwame, their anger palpable. They demanded explanations, but he had none to give. His attempts to deflect and deny only made him look guiltier. "We trusted you, Kwame," said Mrs. Adesina, one of the senior board members. "And you've betrayed that trust. There's no place for you here." Chinedu stepped forward with a final blow. "We've already taken legal action to freeze the accounts involved. The funds have been secured, and we're pursuing charges for embezzlement and fraud." Kwame's face turned ashen. He looked around the room, searching for an ally, but found none. Even those who had once admired his charm now saw him for what he truly was. Amara's triumph. With Kwame effectively neutralized, Amara turned her attention to the board. "I understand the damage this could have caused our company, and I take full responsibility for not catching it sooner. But I promise you this, Edenic Ventures is stronger than any one person. Together, we will rebuild and emerge even stronger." Her words were met with a round of applause. The board members rallied behind her, their trust in her leadership reaffirmed. As the meeting concluded, security escorted Kwame out of the building. His departure was swift and silent, a stark contrast to the chaos he had tried to create. A quiet victory. Later that evening, Amara returned home. The baobab tree stood tall in the garden, its presence a reminder of her strength and resilience. Zuri joined her, a glass of wine in each hand. "You did it," Zuri said, handing her a glass. "You took him down?" Amara nodded, a faint smile on her lips. "I did. But this was never just about Kwame. It was about protecting what I've built and proving that no one can take it away from me." They toasted under the stars, the weight of the day finally lifting. For the first time in months, Amara felt at peace. She had faced her greatest challenge and emerged victorious, not just as a CEO, but as a woman who refused to be broken. The morning sun bathed Lagos in golden light, its rays filtering through the leaves of the baobab tree in Amara's garden. She sat beneath its sprawling branches, her laptop balanced on her knees. A soft breeze whispered through the air, carrying with it the promise of a new beginning. It had been 3 weeks since Kwame's expulsion from her life and Edenic Ventures. The fallout had been swift and public. News outlets across Africa had covered the story of its power couple turned bitter rivals, but Amara had weathered the storm with grace. The scandal hadn't destroyed her, it had fortified her. The aftermath. In the days following the boardroom confrontation, Amara had worked tirelessly to stabilize the company. The scandal had shaken investor confidence, but her swift action and transparency had reassured them. She held press conferences, where she spoke candidly about the challenges Edenic Ventures had faced and outlined her vision for the future. "I won't let the actions of one man define this company," she declared to a room of reporters. "Edenic Ventures is more than just a business. It's a beacon of innovation, resilience, and African excellence." Her words resonated, and the support poured in. Colleagues, investors, and even strangers reached out, applauding her strength and determination. It wasn't just about the company anymore. It was about the legacy she was building for herself and the continent. A new mission. As the dust settled, Amara found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. Kwame's betrayal had been a painful lesson, but it had also reignited a fire within her. She realized that her story wasn't just hers. It was a story shared by countless women across Africa who had faced similar battles. With Zuri's encouragement, Amara decided to launch a new initiative, the Phoenix Foundation, named after the mythical bird that rises from its ashes. The foundation's mission was to empower women entrepreneurs, providing them with the tools, funding, and mentorship they needed to succeed. "Too many women are told they're too ambitious or too strong," Amara said during the foundation's launch event. "But I say let them be. Let them rise and let them lead." The event, held in Abuja, was a resounding success. Women from all walks of life attended, sharing their stories and forging new connections. Amara felt a deep sense of fulfillment as she watched the seeds of change being planted. Kwame's fate. While Amara was rebuilding her empire, Kwame's world was crumbling. The legal case against him was moving forward, and his name was now synonymous with greed and betrayal. He had tried to spin the narrative in his favor, but the evidence was undeniable. One day, Amara received an unexpected call from Kwame. She hesitated before answering, unsure of what he could possibly want. "Amara," he began, his voice subdued. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry." Amara remained silent, her heart a mixture of anger and pity. "I know I can't undo what I've done," he continued. "But I need you to know I never meant to hurt you. I let my ambition get the better of me." She took a deep breath before responding. "Kwame, I've spent too much time and energy trying to understand why you did what you did. But the truth is, it doesn't matter anymore. I've moved on. I hope you find peace, but I won't let your actions define me or my future." With that, she ended the call, feeling a sense of closure she hadn't expected. Returning to her roots. A month after the scandal, Amara traveled to her hometown in Enugu. It had been years since she'd visited, and the sight of the familiar red earth and rolling hills filled her with nostalgia. She was greeted warmly by the villagers, who had followed her journey with pride. Amara spent the day reconnecting with her roots, visiting her childhood home and the school where her dreams had first taken shape. That evening, she gathered with the women of the village beneath an ancient baobab tree, sharing stories and laughter. As the night deepened, Amara stood and addressed the group. When I was a little girl, I used to sit under this tree and dream of a better future. I wanted to prove that no matter where you come from, you can rise above your circumstances. Today, I want to tell you that those dreams are still alive, and they're not just mine. They're ours. The women clapped and cheered, their voices echoing through the night. Amara felt a profound sense of belonging, a reminder of why she had started her journey in the first place. A new chapter. Back in Lagos, Amara continued to thrive. Ednic Ventures was expanding into new markets, and the Phoenix Foundation was gaining momentum. Her life was no longer defined by the betrayal she had endured but by the resilience she had shown in its wake. One evening, as she sat in her garden with Zuri, she reflected on how far she had come. "Do you ever regret any of it?" Zuri. Amara shook her head. "No." Kwame's betrayal was painful, but it taught me one of the most valuable lessons of my life. Never hand over your power, not to anyone. And always trust your instincts. Zuri smiled. "You've become a symbol of strength, Amara. You're inspiring so many people." Amara looked up at the baobab tree, its branches reaching toward the sky. "If I can help even one person rise from their ashes, then everything I've been through was worth it." Epilogue. The Tree of Hope. A year later, Amara returned to her hometown once more. This time, she brought her team from the Phoenix Foundation to launch a new program for young girls. As part of the event, she planted a sapling next to the old baobab tree, a symbol of growth and renewal. "This tree," she said to the crowd, "represents resilience, strength, and hope. No matter how many storms it faces, it stands tall. Just like us." The crowd erupted in applause, and as Amara looked out at their faces, she felt a deep sense of purpose. She had risen from the ashes of betrayal, not just for herself, but for every woman who dared to dream. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that her story was only just beginning. The end. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.